afternoon. Please be welcome, Bruhim Abaim. It is our pleasure and honor to welcome Mr. Robert Singer, the Executive Vice President and CEO of the World Jewish Congress, the international organization that represents the Jewish communities and organizations in 100 countries over the world. Ever since its foundation in Geneva, Switzerland in 1936, the World Jewish Congress has been at the vanguard fighting for the rights of all Jews and their communities. I'm standing here and it's a pleasure and honor for me to be standing here today to introduce one of the most committed people to the ORT mission that I have ever met, Mr. Robert Singer. I stand here today mainly because throughout my life, I have learned that fulfilling missions and accomplishing goals could not be possible if it wasn't for passionate people who would do anything to help make dreams come true. And Robert, you're one of them. If someone had told me 13 years ago that I would be here today talking about the importance of education and opportunities, I wouldn't have believed it. Not only because I probably didn't know what life would be like as a teenager, but also because I would have never pictured a life filled with opportunities. 13 years ago, there was a breakthrough point in my life. I entered the ORT schools. It's difficult to find words to describe what ORT has meant to me. I believe there are not enough words to describe a life-changing experience, because ORT is a school of opportunities. I can still remember how moved I was to be traveling for the first time by plane to the United States as part of an exchange program. My parents were astonished, as they had always dreamt for me to know the world, and I just couldn't believe what was going on. Why would someone care about a young committed student? Why would someone spend hours thinking about how to improve education? Why would someone care about leaving no child behind? But ORT cares. People like Robert Singer cares. I can still remember how it felt to be singing Argentina's national anthem in the International Biology Olympics, where I was part of the national team. I had thought that feeling was exclusive to soccer players in World Cups. But ORT reminded me that I had to be curious and passionate for knowledge. In spite of being terrified, to be honest, as I represented my country, I could bring a bronze medal home. I can still remember the first time that I visited Israel. Who would have known that ORT would enlighten me to embrace my Jewish identity? Thanks to ORT, I could take part of March of the Living, where I brought back a commitment with our Jewish history. ORT reminded me about the importance of being part of a legacy that moves on from generation to generation. That is why I am really proud to say that today I am part of the ORT family as a Jewish education teacher. Thank you, Robert. Thank you for your trust and help towards ORT Argentina. Thank you. Thank you for believing in the education of thousands of young students, including my own. Thank you for preserving ORT's mission in a challenging and rapidly changing world. I entered ORT in 2002, right after a severe economical crisis hit the country. Thanks to a scholarship, I was able to be part of this amazing family and definitely changed my life. I can always recall that when I met Robin Singer for the first time, I surely must have said that my biggest dream would be to become a doctor. And every time he visited us, I would say that I would be studying and also working hard to accomplish that goal. Personally, I am moved to say that after so many years of long studying nights economical obstacles, and hard work, I will finally become a doctor in just 3 weeks. Thank you. You know, it is said in Pirkei Avot, the ethics of our fathers, it is not your obligation to complete the task, but neither are you to desist from it entirely. There is still probably a lot of work to do, more students to be helped. Thanks to your inspiration, Robert, we will strengthen and carry ORT's mission. I would like to deeply thank you for all that you've done for ORT Argentina. It was your leadership, your vision, your passion that helped so many people like me make their dreams come true. Thank you so much. But it's not just about me and so many others, but today here we're honoring Mr. Robert Sinher. He was born in Ukraine in 1956. When he was 15, he made Aliyah, and in Israel he graduated with a Bachelor of Arts from the Tel Aviv University. He later completed postgrads at the Universities of Bridgeport, Columbia, and Harvard. Between 1976 and 1987, he served in the Israel Defense Forces, including as a senior educational officer for over a decade. From 1987 to 1999, he held positions within the Israeli Prime Minister's office, serving under the Prime Minister Yitzhak Yamir, Yitzhak Rabin, Shimon Peres, and Benjamin Netanyahu. He was the Israeli Prime Minister's office envoy to the US and Canada, serving as liaison between the Israeli and American governments on issues concerning Jews in the former Soviet Union countries and in Eastern Europe. Robert also helped to forge Israeli diplomatic relations with the governments of these countries. Attending this meeting are ORT Argentina's committees with its president, Mr. Darío Jaraj, and ORT Argentina's senior staff with its national director, Mr. Adrián Moscovich. Now, I will invite you, Mr. Robert Sinher, to address the audience.
Thank you, Jonathan. I still remember you every time I came to the school, and now I will also know that when I need a doctor, but not just a doctor, but a very good doctor, I'll come to Buenos Aires. So, congratulations to you, and in 3 weeks we'll remember this day. It's really a very special day for me. I just landed a few hours ago from Lima in Peru. I didn't expect all this, and really it's thank you all very much. President of ORT Argentina, Darío Jaraj, Director General of ORT Argentina, Adrián Moscovich, CFO, Julian y Evo Moreno, Academic Director Vivian Hasid, board members, teachers, all of you, and most important, the students, the beautiful students that we just saw outside. Good afternoon to everybody. It is really with great pleasure and pride that I return to this beautiful place and to the place which was my former home. A home of which I am extremely proud and for which I have and will always have very deep affection. As Jonathan said, I was the Director General and the CEO of World ORT for 14 years, during which I am privileged to say that this unique Jewish educational and vocational training NGO achieved international acclaims for its professionalism and effectiveness in delivering innovative and practical solutions to the needs of Jewish and non-Jewish communities across 5 continents. Before I left, I told the leadership of ORT in April 2014 that I consider the years I spent in this organization as the most productive in my career. I told them then that I didn't have one boring day, and I've loved the job very much. mainly because I love the people like Dario and Adrian and each one of you sitting here in this room. I liked the professionals I worked with. I liked lay leaders, not all of them, but most of them. I was very happy. I was happy really every day to look in the mirror when I woke in the morning, which each one of us do. And I knew that this day I'm going to do something very important. And it really gives you a lot of motivation when you have a feeling like this. And I'm sure that each one of you sitting in this room have this feeling every morning. It was a place that I liked, with people that I liked. And it really, very few people have this privilege for 14 years to work in this environment with this kind of people. The World Jewish Congress is, of course, is a completely different organization. The old schools and your school here make a difference in the lives of individuals and group of individuals around the world and their families. Here in Buenos Aires, you, the teachers and the students, these magnificent institutions you have here in Argentina, shape careers and have a lasting impact on the individuals' lives. And Jonathan is really only one example of 2,000 that I hear only on this campus. At the World Jewish Congress, on the other hand, we are responsible for and accountable for global Jewish people. We confront and address on a daily basis all the problems and issues that affect not just the individual Jews across the globe, but Jewish communities and the Jewish people as a whole. So today when I wake up in the morning and look at the mirror and just switch on my iPhone, what I basically see there is not the happy faces of young people that we just saw here outside, but I see daily anti-Semitic and pro-Nazi attacks on Jews around the world in different places in the world, and I'll speak about this a little bit later. First and foremost, the issue that we are dealing on a daily basis is really the issue of anti-Semitism. The World Jewish Congress, which represents more than 100 Jewish communities across the globe, was founded, like Jonathan said, in 1936, 79 years ago, and it was in reaction to the ever-increasing anti-Semitism then threatening the Jews in Nazi Germany, which resulted only a few years later, only 5 years later, in the genocide of European Jewry known as the Holocaust. For the past 8 decades, the World Jewish Congress has been at the forefront of critical fight against this oldest form of bigotry, whenever and wherever it raised and continued to raise its ugly head. Only 70 years after the liberation of the Nazi death camps and the end of the World War II, Jews today are still faced with rejection, abuse, and violent attacks. And in many places, this problem is increasing, especially these days in Europe. Muslim extremists have joined with far-left political elements to demonize Jews under the guise of anti-Zionism. As we all have seen to our horror in Belgium last year, and France and Denmark, this has resulted in physical and sometimes deadly attacks on Jews in situations that has nothing to do whatsoever with the state of Israel or its policies. In many places, Jews are actually afraid to walk on the streets, to wear Jewish symbols of dress. Just one example, the president of the Central Council of the Jews in Germany recently advised Jews against wearing a kippah, a yarmulke, in certain areas because it might be considered a provocation and lead to anti-Semitic attacks, and we're talking about Germany in 2015. And then there's an issue of cyber hate, which I hope you, ORT Argentina, will help us in this battle. The internet has become a place to spread anti-Semitic canals, and this has become a problem not just in the virtual world, but in the real world as well. When Jews or Jewish communities anywhere are threatened or attacked, the World Jewish Congress comes to their assistance in any and every way we can. Holocaust remembrance and the imperative of providing the survivors of the Shoah with at least some justice and reparations have remained at the core of the WGC global mission, and you saw that only today one of the former Nazis was sentenced to 4 years in jail. Of course, one of our most important areas of activity is to provide international support for the State of Israel and the ongoing fight against efforts to isolate and delegitimize Israel. Only last month, we organized a solidarity rally with Israel, for Israel, outside the United Nations in Geneva, while the UN Human Rights Council debated its one-sided and ill-advised report on last summer's military confrontation in Gaza. Over 1,000 Jews and non-Jews from across Europe participated in this demonstration of support for the only democracy in the Middle East. Here in Argentina and other countries in Latin America, while I know that Jews are facing your fair share of problems, I also know that in many respects, the countries of South America are good places for Jews to live in. They have created a model of dialogue and mutual understanding with the leaders of other communities, which is really outstanding. It is not a coincidence that the relations between Jews and the Catholic Church are today so cordial and close. These close relations were also built here in Buenos Aires, in Argentina, when Pope Francis was the Archbishop, and today we are reaping the fruits of these efforts. I was part of a very small group of people who met Pope Francis twice this year, and I can tell you that he is a real friend of Jewish people. At the same time, we must not forget that 21 years after the AMIA bombing, justice still has not been achieved for the victims of this terrorist outrage. The World Jewish Congress has stood with the Jewish community of Argentina throughout this long battle, and we will continue to do so. And I would like to insist on this. We will not rest until justice has been done and until progress is made in this case, and in the case of the Israeli embassy bombing in 1992. Both attacks were evil crimes, and those who masterminded them will have to be brought to justice. More importantly today, I want to commend you for being here at this wonderful school. First, the teachers. You are the most important weapon we have in our struggle to keep the Jewish people alive and strong. Education is our most critical resource. Without Jewish education, there is little hope for strong, informed Jewish people in the future. And you, the teachers here, and the Jewish teachers elsewhere, you are the ones who shape the minds and creativity of the Jewish people of tomorrow. And finally, I would like to thank the students of this school for being here, for studying here. Your presence demonstrates your commitments and that of your parents and families to Jewish value and to ensuring that you will have a lifelong strong Jewish identity. I want you to take the full advantage of all the opportunities, both educational and social, that you have here. And I want you to remember that we at World Jewish Congress, and I'm sure people in the world, and our partners and colleagues at the Latin American Jewish Congress will always be here to help and support you in any way we can. The tremendous success of ORT Argentina would not be possible without your outstanding board of directors or board of governors. And it is my privilege to salute Dario and all the members of the board who are doing an outstanding job in supervising this school. So that was what I wrote to tell you. But now let me tell you two stories. One just came to my mind just now. The direct feedback on the products of your school. You saw one, Jonathan, who I understand now is the teacher in the school, and what can be more beautiful for somebody like him to giving back to many students of this school. But I just spent 2 days with one of our other graduates who is working now for the Latin American Jewish Congress, and he's sitting here. His name is Ariel. He was studying chemistry in ORT Argentina for 6 years. And then he became the black sheep of the family because all his family are doctors and lawyers and really doing an important stuff. But he decided to go to politics and studied politics here in Buenos Aires. And I spent with him 2 days. So I want to, first of all, to thank all the teachers of this school that were involved in his education. It's not only you educated an outstanding man And I'm sure that you have thousands of like him that went through the doors of this school. But he's very devoted leader of this community, and I hope he will become more involved. And the other thing, I know that in this school you have both Jews and non-Jews. I arrived 2 days ago in Lima. We just landed from Lima after the night flight 2 hours ago. And when I landed in Lima, they told me a story of a man called Barreto, who used to be the Consul General of Peru in Geneva in the end of 90s. And Barreto had 12 kids, and he worked for the Foreign Ministry. World Jewish Congress in Geneva discovered, were the organization that discovered about the Holocaust, the first one, and wrote to everybody, including to the White House and every government in the world. And then people of the World Jewish Congress, when they saw what is happening in Europe, went from one embassy to the other, from one consulate to the other one, trying to help Jews to escape from Europe. And nobody wanted to see them. And he was the only man that, following the request from one of the employees of the World Jewish Congress these days, issued 58 visas for Jews in Europe to come to Peru. This became known to the foreign minister of Peru, who immediately fired him, and the man died in poverty in Peru, and was basically never recognized up till a year ago when this story became known. So we invited yesterday his granddaughter to come, and we officially thank her on behalf of the World Jewish Congress, on behalf of the Jewish people worldwide. And the lesson that we can learn from this, that even in the most darkest times and the most difficult circumstances, there are people there in the largest community, larger than only Jewish community, who are heroes and who will be always with us. And many of them, I'm sure, studying at this school. For me to come back here to ORT Argentina, to Buenos Aires, to see Adrian and Vivian and Dario and many of the friends, Alejandro and many others, I'm sure that there are at least another 20, 30, 50, 100,000, 2,000 names that I would like to say. It's really a very moving experience. It's really coming back home. So thank you very much for this warm welcome. I never expected this. I will never expect this. I'm just very happy to be here with you. Thank you very much. And I would like just to recognize another man who gave to ORT at least 50 years of his life, who was the head of the Jewish community of Chile in the most difficult times of Pinochet, and who is the World ORT representative in Latin America, Isidoro Grodishan.
Thank you so much for your kind words. And as a token of gratitude for your permanent support to our educational project, ORT Argentina has decided to appoint you Honorary Director of ORT Argentina. We invite Mr. Darío Jaraj, President of ORT Argentina, Mr. Adrián Moscovich, National Director, Ms. Viviana Hasid, the Educational Director, and Mr. Julio Niva Moreno, Administrative Director, to hand this certification. Skills and values we learn as kids are remembered forever and invariably accompany us in later educational stages along our lives. With this in mind, this school year, ORT Argentina opened the primary school in its Almagro and Belgrano campuses. Dear Robert, the children of the ORT Elementary School wish to thank you personally and give you a little keepsake.
זה שיר פרדות תמיד אומרים בין השורות
שכמו חידות ועודות גם הן אינן צורות
אין בי מנוחה
אין בי מנוחה
רוחך שבי גם היא בוכה כמו חופים שים עוזר
אני עובר עכשיו ממך
בדמעות ובין כאב אני הולך
In building number 4, we will unveil a plaque in honor of our distinguished guests. Thank you very much indeed for your attendance here today. Toda Rabá Lekulam.
Shalom aleinu, yavo shalom aleinu, yavo shalom aleinu ve'al kulam. Od yavo shalom aleinu.